Say that something is made out of plastic, and most people will frown. Whether it's a cutlery set, or Kim Kardashian's ass, or the entire bodies on some cars, we always tend to go like this. No! Fair criticism? Not always. Hey guys, Stype here with a list of cars that are plastic and still fantastic. Let's do this video. Ferrari 308 Vetrocina. What is it with the Italian language that it makes even the most mundane words sound special? Quattroporte, 4-door. Superleggera, lighter. Vetrocina, fiberglass. Yes, this Ferrari, this object of desire, the yardstick for one's success, is made from glass reinforced plastic, like a canoe or this portable toilet. What was Ferrari thinking? Well, the same question was on everybody's mind when they came up with the 308 GT4, a car so ugly and undesirable that they needed to come up with something else. Pronto. This haste to get the prettier new car out meant that they didn't have the time and frankly money to develop the tooling for it. You know, that big press that stamps the steel panels? Yes, that. So they made the bodies by hand, out of fiberglass, and for 2 years, till they got those presses ready. Now, I know this will sound crazy, but the plastic 308 was actually the best 308 of them all. Not just because it was the rarest, the most collectible, and has the coolest name, but because it is 300 pounds lighter than the steel ones, and at 250 horsepower, its 3-liter V8 was at its most potent. Later on, the emission standards choked the power down to as low as 208 horses and the acceleration from 5 to 8.1 seconds. 8.1? I can shit faster than that. Like I said, plastic one is the best. Vauxhall VX 220. Also known as the Opel Speedster, it's one of the most underrated sports cars ever, especially given how popular its baby brother from Lotus is. If you haven't guessed by this entire area, the VX is based on the second generation Elise, and not just based. It was also entirely developed by the same Lotus people and built in the same Lotus factory too, but only after GM insisted on a few changes.
I insist.
There, fellas, you can use the fiberglass for the body. That's okay, but please, make it more American.
Or in other words, bigger. After all, such a car is more comfortable and handles those bumpier roads much better. GM also insisted on giving it some airbags, ABS, and most notably, their own engines with more Whether it was the early 2.2 or the later 2-liter turbo, the VX 220 always had more get up and go than the Elise. Now, I know what you're thinking. This car is for the real world, while the Lotus is for the track, right? No siree.
Look at the way the Lotus goes through this corner. It's all safe and steady understeer. Now look at the Vauxhall. It's the back that's letting go.
Jeremy's conclusion?
This is my winner.
By the way, the limited R version with just 20 horsepower more was as quick as a Lamborghini Gallardo from the same year. Not bad for a car made from the least exotic material known to man. AutoZam, the AZ1. That greatness comes in all sizes. You don't need better proof than this little toy car from Mazda. And I do mean a toy car. For starters, it's tiny. An inch longer or wider or more endowed under the hood, and it wouldn't have been classified as a Japanese K car. And then, no huge tax breaks. It's also a supercar. Sure, a low-fat, alcohol-free, downsized one, but a supercar nonetheless. Which other category comes with mid-engine, a sharp nose, and gull-wing doors? Only supercars. And what are they for if not for playing with? And lastly, the AZ1 is made out of plastic, as most toys are. But that alone doesn't put it in the top 7 greatest, the way it drives does. Despite weighing less than 1,600 pounds, the strictly limited 65 horsepower won't make it move very fast. But tackle any series of sharper corners and it will turn into a hummingbird on cocaine.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Nothing, not a damn thing that isn't powered by a set of AA batteries will outcorner the little AZ1. Well, okay, the Mazda Speed version would. That's the in-house tuned variant, and while it couldn't have had any more power due to the K-Class restrictions, it did have improved suspension and some crazy but frankly useless plastic aero. On supercars, that's a good thing, not a bad thing. TVR Cigaris. It may look like an axe murderer on wheels, but compared to every other model that came before it, Cigaris is a TVR that's the least hell-bent on putting you some 6 feet under the ground. Like, here's what happens when you stab the old 400 SE on a drag strip. It just says,
Go yourself.
Cigaris is different. Well, a little. It still has a tubular frame under a fiberglass body that weighs nothing. Those side-firing, flame-spitting pipes are yet again loud enough to start an avalanche. And as always, there was absolutely no safety features at all. No ABS, no traction control, no airbags. The TVR philosophy has always been that relying on these things will make you a worse driver. But at least with the Cigaris, you're in a well-sorted-out driver's car. Maybe the best one ever. They often say that about the Miata, but come on, that's a girl's car. Meanwhile, the Cigaris weighs less, but packs more than double the power. It's the sort of car that will make you grow a full carpet on your chest and a third ball in your nutsack, but not kill you. Remember when the 992 GT3 came out? And the big deal was that it had double wishbone suspension on the front. Ooh, it corners so much better now. Well, this TVR had that 20 years earlier, front and back. So it may look like a nightmare, but it handles like a dream, as long as you have the skills. BMW M1. Sometime during the 70s, a BMW motorsport guy figured that their racing efforts would be much more fruitful if they had a car designed specifically for the job, instead of having to turn a regular family saloon into a racer. So with the troubled help from Lamborghini, they came up with this, the first ever M car, the BMW M1. And, did it work? No, it did not. To enter a race, the rules said they had to sell 400 of these, which was a tall order because for less money, you could have a Countach. A Countach would also get you double the engine, more power, special doors, and a much more incredible design. Sure, the Giugiaro-designed BMW looked good, but not quite as holy balls, what am I looking at, like the Lambo. Its body was also made of fiberglass, and compared to handcrafted aluminum, that is a poor man's material. But here's the kicker. Put these two on a track or a mountain pass, and the Lambo would be the one that's eating the dust. A smaller engine and a plastic body made the Beamer considerably lighter, and let's not forget, this was designed to go fast for real and not just shout about it. Shame that we never saw it prove its worth in a real competition. It could have reminded those future M guys what the M stands for. Motorsports. Ooh, is the big fat SUV not selling well?
You think that is funny?
I do. And I'm tired of pretending it's not.
Sesto Elemento. While all the other cars on this list are made of glass reinforced plastic, aka fiberglass, this $2 million Lambo is not. As the name suggests, the Sesto Elemento is made of little else other than the sixth element of the periodic table, carbon. But that is just half the story. The other half is that it's not regular carbon fiber like you'd find on your regular supercars. No. This one is infused with plastic. That is some new kind of advanced CFRP composite that Lamborghini Lab developed with the help of none other than Boeing. And I already know what you're thinking. The doors will fall off?
Oddly.
Hopefully not, because if it sheds any more weight than it already did, you'll have to tie it down to keep it from floating away, like a kid's balloon. Compared to the regular Gallardo LP 570 on which it's based, the Sesto is more than half a ton lighter. It's like you somehow take two Harleys out of its trunk and then what's left is either carbon or carbon plastic or just plain plastic. Well, okay, the engine and the transmission are still metal, obviously, but the shocks, the prop shaft, the wheels, and look at the windows and the windshield. They bend. Glass won't do that. Honestly, I can't think of any other car that's been on a more extreme diet than this. And it's all thanks to two things everyone hates: Boeing and plastic. Ford RS200. Like BMW, Ford also realized that if they wanted to be competitive at the Group B rallying, then they better start from scratch. After all, this was the toughest, most demanding, most dangerous category of racing ever invented. No room for half-assing it here. So Ford hired a pair of F1 engineers to help them develop this, an off-road rocket cloud in a fiberglass shell. It had dual shocks all around, permanent four-wheel drive Cosworth-tuned engine in the middle, and a gearbox in the front for better weight distribution. It's an odd layout, like a Nissan GTR going backwards, but it worked, in theory. Out on the rally stage, the best result it ever got was third. The RS200 was clearly undercooked.
It's fucking...
But just wait until you see the next year's evolution with over 800 horsepower. Yeah, that never happened. The 1986 year was so deadly that the Group B was canceled before the season even ended. Hell, even the RS was involved in some crowd diving too. But the story doesn't end there, because Ford also had to build 200 of these for road use. Full of interior parts from Sierra and with an engine detuned to 240 horses, these were somewhat easier to dodge out of the way of. But I'd still be a nervous wreck if I heard one approaching at full speed. Interesting fact, those road versions were built by Reliant, so don't be too surprised if you see one resting on its side. Now, before I reveal my number one, here are three more great plastic cars. Can you guess these? And at number one, Chevy Corvette. While not the first car to be made out of fiberglass, the Corvette certainly popularized this material, showing everyone that it can be used for more than just boats. And it almost didn't happen at all. The Corvette was kind of a pet project, a Euro-style sports car for the American market. It was a shot in the dark, so the budget was like $12 and some baseball cards. They said they picked the plastic because it's light and rust-proof, but really it was to cut cost. And so the hood, the doors, the wings, the floors, it was all hand-laid fiberglass. Too bad that Chevy workers weren't too skilled with it, which resulted in terrible panel gaps and overall bad build quality. That, plus a lousy straight-six engine and a 2-speed auto, nearly sealed its fate. Luckily, GM decided to give it another chance, and a V8. That changed everything. A decade and another generation later, the Corvette was so popular that it needed to invent a new press mold process and even a new composite for its plastic panels. Look, you don't get to produce 30,000 of these per year if you're still making them by hand. The full plastic bodies continued all the way until 2004, when finally the Z06 came out with a carbon fiber hood. But don't think that things have changed much. Even with this latest supercar Vet, most panels are still plastic. All this, all of it.
Plastic.
And now you know why the C8 is so much cheaper than its rivals. Plastic truly is fantastic. Anyway, that's all I've got for you today. Go watch something else, and I'll see you in the next one. All right,